Hey, Bramboss, the developer behind Riskmaker and Phasemaker, has brought us Troublemaker. And as the iTunes description emphatically states, it is not a TB303, but it kinda is, because it's got circuit modeling based heavily on the TB303. In fact, it's gone really far out of its way to make sure that it's going to be the most, I don't want to say authentic, but pretty close to the real thing as it can be, because of this real clever design that he's got going on with the circuit modeling. But it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what the iTunes thing says. The only thing that you're going to pay attention to is how this thing sounds. So I'm gonna do something unusual right now. I'm gonna shut the fuck up. I'm gonna just play with this for a bit, and then I'll get nerdy with it and explain what's going on. But I'll let you listen to it without me talking. So everything that I just did right there was only using the base TB303 stuff that you got, with the cutoff and resonance for the filter, the envelope mod and decay for the filter, and it's added in a fuzz, which is an important distortion distortion effect to have in any kind of TB303 performance. So that's it. But you see, there's a lot of other things going on. You got a delay, which is fun. But they've also got some other stuff that you've never seen before on any kind of TB303 clone, including an LFO, which now, I'm not touching anything. It's going to be cycling through the cutoff, which is like an entirely wild idea to throw into a 303, but you know, it's an app, so what the hell, you can do that. I'm lowering that cutoff just a little bit so you can hear it cycling through on its own. But it's also got a phase distortion in addition to the regular analog-ish distortion. Actually, let me turn off the LFO so you can hear exactly what this is doing. I'll switch back to the saw wave here. Alright, so we got that typical squelchiness going on, right? Listen as I bring in the fold. It gets this crispy sort of slickness at the top of that. Alright, so this is without it. And it's pretty subtle, but you can hear it kind of crunching even more at the high end. And if I give it a bunch of distortion there, You hear how it's bringing out the squelch? I think that's really neat, and you can get really crazy with it because you're not limited to the saw and square wave of the TB303. You've also got available to you all these other things, and I'm particularly fond of this FM bass thing. Oh my god. See, we've gone way beyond just emulating analog hardware into some other insane new realm. Yeah, that's just its own weirdness, using the same sort of TB303 layout. Like, you've got the sequencer that lets you go through a pretty simple sort of layout here of 16, or you can bring it down to 8 steps or whatever. Hell, you can bring it down even lower. All G's, all the way down. It's really easy to kind of set things like that, and you can adjust notes by dragging them up and down, tapping on them until they become white makes them an accent, or you tap on them again to deactivate them. I'm really liking that tail. It sounds really good with this laser bass thing here. In fact, you know, since we're so far out of the realm of the TB303, let me just take this a little further and get crazy with this. I'm gonna reduce the time on the delay. Increase the delay a whole bunch, and now jack up the feedback. Now, most people that knew what I was doing there, they threw off their headsets, so let's give them a few seconds to put their headsets back on. Come on, guys, put it back on. All right, you hear it's not blowing out my eardrums, because this is intelligently designed. Like, I'm throwing it all the way up there. We got max feedback, but it's not actually giving me 100% feedback. You know, it's got that sort of friendly, easy-to-use interface that you can't fuck up that bad. So instead of ear-bleeding feedback, we've got this crazy-ass future laser bass thing. Alright, so let me take a step back from all this and get us back into TB303 land, and you see how easy that was, right? I changed a few knobs and we're back to squelchy goodness. And it really is worth playing around with some of these additional things. Like, the new oscillators sound digital, but who cares? It sounds awesome. Alright, so I want to show you some of the other really interesting things that are going on in here. You know, so we've got this punch thing, and I want to really explain and dive into. But let me change this sequence so you're not getting bored with this. And there's lots of ways to do that. There's random, where it just gives you whatever randomness it can think of. It tends to favor, I think it automatically goes back to 16 steps if you hit random. But as you see, as I take this out, it actually did fill in the rest of these steps. And you can load up a whole bunch of stuff. Like, let me actually go back to the one that we were starting off with. And if I hit variation, it's going to create a variation of this. It's kind of awesome. Actually, this is a super good point to explain the accent and punch. So I'm going to do that right now with this. All right, so we're not doing any kind of crazy squelching. But you're hearing some of these notes are really popping up, right? And that's the 3 accents that we have here. And the way that the accent works is it takes whatever value you have for... I really wish my knob indicator thing was actually where I'm pointing at. Okay, so it takes your accent and it adds that to your resonance, and it jacks up the filter cutoff by that amount. And it does some other weird stuff, but that's basically what it's doing. Is it's just shooting this thing way up past whatever you've got your cutoff at. So those are those really percussive hits we're hearing now, because it's setting it way up. But accented notes have a extremely short decay. Like it's not paying attention to the decay knob at all. It's going up and then it's as low as the decay can get. So we get these really percussive hits, which still sound awesome, right? We can bring that in and then play around with that, knowing that, like, if we know that these 3 notes are going to have this super short decay, and everything else is going to have whatever I set this decay knob to, I can use that to accentuate differences in notes. So let me actually switch this back to a more standard TB303 sound. Okay, so you can hear that. Those are the accents, and you can hear how different they're sounding from everything else. And as I screw around with this, try to pay attention to that. If I bring down the decay, everything is doing that short. And immediately you got that switch there. Isn't that fun? So I'm trying to keep myself on task here so I don't just end up playing around with this without talking to you guys. So another thing that I wanted to really show off here is the inclusion of this punch knob. So even among like original Roland branded TB303s, there's a huge variation in how far up the envelope mod would go and how far down it would go. Like it was the same knob, right? But the actual circuitry was slightly different, and it would have these huge variances, and especially with the deep and like how far down it would go. So I got a point here where you can hear the envelope mod is with this decay. Bringing our notes down, we're going to okay, so if I play around with this punch, listen to how this changes this, because the punch is affecting how big of an area the envelope mod knob is going to impact. So if I take it down, those notes, the distance between the envelope pushing up the filter and lowering is decreased. It has nothing to do with the decay or the envelope mod itself anymore. It's this thing has brought effectively the range of this knob down. If I go the other way, actually, I wonder if you can hear the difference. That's too much of a pain in the ass trying to shut off. Never mind. The punch is now making our unaccented notes have a greater difference as it's coming down on that decay. And if you cycle back and forth between the punch, which you can hear, you get these huge differences. So sometimes I really like the lower envelope mod in a lot of cases. So I'll be screwing around with it, making it squelchy and stuff like that. But you can hear that there's a real value in being able to switch that up. That's something you couldn't do with real TB303 hardware because you're just locked into whatever the envelope mod is. I mean, I guess you could try to simulate that, right, by saying, okay, we're just drastically decreasing the envelope mod. Or increasing it. I have no idea how much of the increase and decrease is going on here. You kind of get the same effect, but it's more fun when you've just got one knob that's going to do that for you, so you can make those dramatic shifts. And the README, the manual for this is actually really worth reading. But the manual suggests that the punch in its circuit modeling behavior is affecting the way a capacitor in the circuit works. So it's affecting some other stuff as well, but it doesn't explain what that other stuff is. All I know is when I do this, it sounds different from this. But that's cool, because that's all you need, right? Is a knob. You say, I need more of that. Maybe I need some of that. Maybe I need none of that. It's super simple. It doesn't matter what it's doing. You're just having fun with this knob. And there's a lot of stuff to have fun with in here, especially in the factory. There's a whole bunch of classic, or as more often known, the famous acid patterns. Now, this is Confusion, the New Order song that was remixed by Pump Panel for the Blade soundtrack. But it sounded wrong to me, and I looked it up, and it is actually wrong. It's one note. It's one semitone high, so you can just lower it there with a convenient note shifter here. But I looked it up, this is the correct one, so I don't know if he put it in there wrong for copyright reasons or whatever, but you just tap down once and you can save it now as your own. And there's you've got Confusion. There's also Defunk in here. The BPM is wrong on that. Alright, there you go. That sounds pretty good. I tried my own hand at that. I think once again he's doing it in the wrong note. I'm trying to think if there's any others that caught my attention. Well, that's just fun. And variation. Or variations. That's kind of interesting. I really like the way that LFO works, because now I can actually just talk to you while it's doing its thing. But also, it's kind of like you're doing a duet now with the LFO. If you listen to its pattern, and you can affect the rate. Listen to that. So I have been having a lot of fun with Troublemaker. I think you're going to have fun too if you like the TB303 or just acid in general, or if you're sick of acid, you think it's played out, and you might be right. But I enjoy it, so fuck you. It's got the other stuff in here that you can play around with and have fun. See, once again, I'm just screwing around with things real fast, and I've got a sound you would never hear out of any TB303 clone. Most of these tend to be like very digital sounding in these special waves, but this bass guitar one does not. Try to unscrew around with it as much as possible here. That's weird. That sounds kind of hybridy. That's interesting, but like I said, you know, if you're not into TB303s or acid, you might not like it, but there are some other options in here to screw around with. The sequencer is actually surprisingly fun too, because you can just quickly change things around. Alright, I'm getting out of this and into back into acid. One thing I do want to show off that I meant to is the way that these slides sound, especially when you're doing the crazy acid sounds. So that sounds really good, and that's like part of the authentic acidy sound is how that is rendered in this slide. So there I've deactivated the lower note, and you're just hearing the slide. Oops, let me get rid of that too, so you can hear it kind of on its own. That doesn't seem to have any effect on it, which is weird, because if I go like this, I think conventional wisdom in TB303 land is that setting it to an up, even though that up is off, should sound different than setting it to a down, even if the down is off. But that doesn't seem to be the case here, and I'm honestly not, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I do not know if that's correct or not. Holy shit, did I just record a half-an-hour video? Oh my god, editing this is going to be a pain in the ass. I hope you've enjoyed this. I didn't realize I was going to be going on that long. Thank you very much to all my Patreon patrons for making this possible. Thanks. Take it easy, folks. If you're not picky, it's fun and interesting, but if you are picky, holy shit, like that, I just did 2 things that it didn't follow. Like I'm twisting it clockwise here. I'm not doing any of that. Fuck. Right, that is sounding really good. So I'm bringing in the other parts here. Now I can start playing around with this just as it is, because oh my god, like that, it was that simple. This has been less than 15 minutes. I've already got the makings of something right here.